At a recent Homeland Security meeting, Congress convened to discuss a bill proposed by Senator Hawley to ban stock trading for members of Congress. Before voting to move the bill forward, senators debated the bill. Ultimately, the bill was recommended to move to the whole Senate after an 8-7 vote. All of the Republican senators opposed the measure, except for Hawley. Watch the highlights from the hearing unfold right here.
To say that we have an opportunity here today to do something that the public has wanted us to do for decades, and that is to ban members of Congress from profiting on information that, frankly, only members of Congress have in the buying and selling of stock. 86% of Americans say that members of Congress should not be able to buy and sell shares of stock, individual stock, while they are members of this body, and they are absolutely correct.
This piece of legislation, really, it's legislative demagoguery. You know, we do have insider trading laws. We have financial disclosure. Trust me, we have financial disclosure. The press pays attention to it. So I don't see the necessity of this. I can imagine all kinds of unintended consequences. You could relabel this law, quite honestly, the Career Politician Protection Act, because it'll make it so unattractive for people to give up their business, sell it, unless some ethics committee says, oh, no, there won't be a conflict of interest. I mean, when we pass a tax law that lowers tax rates, we all benefit. It's just an inherent issue.
Democrats and Republicans, right? Just right now around Liberation Day, President Trump's big tariff day, 53 members made over 2,200 stock trades valuing at $34.9 million, between $34.9 million and $140 million. So it's happening on both sides of the aisle. And people don't believe that we are here for the right reasons. We have a problem. And in order to address that, I am willing to make the good work instead of waiting for the perfect. So of course, I want the president and the vice president to be held accountable under this. Of course, we saw that you made changes so that it affected their next term, knowing that that probably wouldn't be Donald Trump. We all saw Vance and Trump come out against this publicly. But I think it's important that we at least make a start. And you're right, there could be judges and chiefs of staff and all kinds of other peoples. But right now, this body has the opportunity to make the call on this body and a few other really important holders.
So we will have a vote, and the next vote is going to be on the substitute. The substitute protects Donald Trump. The original bill does not protect Donald Trump. And so I hope everybody will think about that. I will oppose the substitute change because I think it should apply to everybody or nobody. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. We're going to apply it to us and the president, and except for Donald Trump. You know, I mean, to accept Donald Trump from this is crazy. It also excludes all the courts, all the staff. I frankly think that there are chiefs of staff on, the Armed Services Committee that know a lot more about tank sales and plane sales and this and that way before anybody else does. That if you think there's a real problem with this, apply this to staff as well. I think the courts know. If I've got a decision coming up and it's Monsanto and I'm going to rule on a $1 billion case against Monsanto, should the people that work for the judge be included in this? I do agree with Senator Johnson, though, that I think insider trading is not only has always been illegal, it was further made illegal under more scrutiny under the Stock Act. And I think this is a solution looking for publicity, but not necessarily something that is really an accurate or effective tool. If it were, it would apply to President Trump. So the vote we're going to have is to be excluding President Trump from this bill. And if you think that's fair, vote for the substitute. If you don't think it's fair to exclude Donald Trump, I think we should vote against the substitute. Not because I have anything against Donald Trump, but because I think everybody should be treated fairly.
If you are a big stockholder and you have it, you chose to be able to sell yours off. Some others come into it and say, hey, I have stock holdings. I'm not one of those, by the way. They would come in and say, I'm going to put all this in a qualified blind trust. They're prohibited from having communication with them. That person is actually managing it, and they're separated totally. This bill would say, no, you can't do that anymore. So if you have stocks, you can't put that in a qualified blind trust any longer. Why would that be?
A couple of things. Number one, if you have a qualified blind trust and you are a member of Congress, again, you have until the beginning of your next term, should the voters see fit to reelect you.
No,
in order
I
to
get
comply.
that, but then after that, it's prohibited on it. So
Correct. So for those who know ahead of time that they're going to be joining this body, they can no longer use qualified blind trust. And the reason for that is, as you know, the rules on qualified blind trusts are not airtight. They're actually very loose. It is very difficult to police. You don't police them, and the Ethics Committee.
Well, the Ethics Committee, thank you for mentioning that. Ethics Committee does police that. So thanks for telling me what I don't do. We do police that, but
you do not police the structure of the blind trust.
We do, actually. Every single blind trust that's actually put in has to be approved.
And they have to, and so before, and you police then the buying and the selling and the communication back and forth between members?
We do police the communication between the members and the individuals of the blind trust. That's correct.
And so you think that that's an effective way? You're saying you think we need no changes now. You think that effectively accounts for any sort of
again, this suddenly sounds like it's personal. You're telling me what I don't do.
No, I'm just asking you a question because what we found over and over is when members of Congress have been investigated for securities violations, they have said over and over, "Oh, I had a trust. I had a trust. I didn't really know anything about it." And then as it turns out, they're communicating with their trustee, and they say, "Oh, we're allowed to do that." So you're telling me maybe they violated multiple laws. Here's what I would say. I think that at the end of the day, if you're asking me why do we need to eliminate blind trusts, it's because blind trusts, I think, are often workarounds because they can be structured in multiple different ways, right? There's not one way to structure blind trust, correct? Or there's only one way?
There is a way that you have to structure it if you're in the Senate and going through ethics. Have you gone through that process before?
No, because I don't have any of these securities, James, because when I got elected, I sold all of my trusts and assets.
Great.
I don't have a blind trust. I practice what I preach. I don't have individual stocks. I don't trade in stocks. I'm not a billionaire, unlike others on this committee. And what I think is the American people are sending us a clear message, and I hope that they are watching this today. They're sending us a message that they want us to behave as they behave.
Right.
Nobody would like people to do trading. We've watched Nancy Pelosi. Seems like she's figured out how to make a fortune off of trading. We'd all like to make as much money as she made in trading. I don't know anybody in the country that's done that well. So, but if you look at this, if you have a small business, you come up here, right? It's illiquid. There's no buyer. What are you going to do? You just give it away. No. So you're telling people, let me finish. Okay, there's no buyer. If it's illiquid, there's no buyer. That's why it's called illiquid, right? You made a reference to billionaires, okay? I don't know when in this country it became a negative to make money. But somehow, if you've made money, you're supposedly, I think Senator Hawley suggests, you shouldn't be serving because you might trade stocks. Now, I came up here, I made money. I started out never knowing my dad, living in public housing. I lived the dream that many of us wanted to live, not be broke. I went to junior college, joined the Navy. I didn't go to some elite university. I went to the cheapest place I could find, and I went and built businesses. But somehow now, if you've made money, somehow it's negative up here. I did what Senator Johnson did. When I became governor of Florida, I sold my operating businesses, right? I did a blind trust while I was governor. I never saw what was in the blind trust. I never traded one thing that was in the blind trust. Somebody else did it. Now in this job, I don't trade stocks. I don't own operating businesses. But somehow it's suspect because I made money. I don't know how many people in the audience, how many of you don't want to make money? Anybody want to be poor? I don't. Right? So this idea that we're going to attack people because they make money is wrong. Is absolutely wrong. We should cherish all of our different backgrounds. Every one of us has a different background. I've got a business background. But what I was just accused of is making money, and somehow I can't be fair and do things the right way. So I think it's disgusting what is going on here. So, but I agree with I completely agree with you. We've got to stop people from trading stocks. But this is way different. This is an attack against the president, attack against the vice president. That's what this is.
When you come here, you have and are held to the highest of standards. You know, that we work jobs whose job descriptions are in the Constitution of the United States. And if you are concerned about how that's going to affect your bottom line, if mutual funds are not good enough for you, then maybe this is not the right job for you. But if we are just trying to find and have that standard so the American people can understand and not have a single question about the motivations of people to be in this building. And I recognize that as I am here in the Senate because of these concerns about corruption and scandals that are out there.
For more Congress clips, stay right here, and thanks for watching.